So let's talk about psychology. Psychology. You got Piaget, Vygotsky, B.F. Skinner, operant conditioning, Ivan Pavlov's ringing of the bell, and the salivating dogs. Solomon Asch, Stanley Milgram, 1951 conformity study, Susan Boyle. Everybody hated her until everybody loved her. Nope, it looks like everybody hates Susan Boyle. I'm going to make fun of her, roll my eyes at stupid Susan Boyle. And wait, now everybody loves her? Well, I gotta conform again. So, Philip Zimbardo, a class divided. Harry Harlow learned helplessness. All these psychology experiments give us knowledge and access to what the human mind is all about. What is the human mind all about? B.F. Skinner, Ivan Pavlov, 1977 Halo Effect, Howard Gardner's 8 Multiple Intelligences. So people are intelligent in different ways. There's existential intelligence, that's number 9, but the 8 original is interpersonal, intrapersonal, naturalistic intelligence, logical, mathematical intelligence, verbal, linguistic intelligence, interpersonal, intrapersonal, interpersonal, musical intelligence, visual, spatial intelligence, and then bodily kinesthetic intelligence. That means people that are good at sports and people that can move their bodies, people that can, dive and jump and do tricks and flips and Bobo doll. The Bobo doll experiment, 1961, 1963. Apparently, if there's a Bobo doll and you walk in and you just punch the Bobo doll and then you walk away, the kid is actually more likely to hit the Bobo doll because he just saw you do it. But if you walk in and you don't beat up the Bobo doll, then they're actually more likely to be nice to the Bobo doll. William Glasser, he talks about choice theory, quality school, reality therapy. 95% of seemingly crazy behavior is the person's inability to communicate with those that they love. According to William Glasser, the 5 basic needs are survival, belonging, power, freedom, and fun. The day that we stop playing is the day that we stop learning. The better the choices, the happier we are. It is no kindness to treat people as helpless or hopeless or inadequate, no matter what has happened to them. Well, they had a couple. Just a hopeless, inadequate, helpless. Kindness is having faith in the truth and that people can handle it and that they can use the truth to their benefit. True compassion is helping people help themselves. In fact, we should encourage each other to be the best versions of ourselves that we could be. That's a school of life. That's Cornell West. What happened in the past that was painful has a great deal to do with who we are today. But revisiting this painful past can contribute little to nothing to what we need to do right now. To achieve and maintain the relationships we need, we must stop choosing to coerce, force, compel, punish, reward, manipulate, boss, motivate, criticize, blame, complain, nag, badger, rank, rate, or withdraw. We must replace these destructive behaviors with choosing to care, listen, support, negotiate, encourage, love, befriend, trust, accept, welcome, and esteem. Welcome and esteem. I like Jordan Peterson since he is cheering for me. He says that he is giving the tools for the average person to be able to stand up for themselves better. There's a marshmallow experiment. There's the Beautiful Ones experiment. There's Gabriel Mate. Marshmallows, they put 2 marshmallows in front of these kids and says, if you wait 15 minutes, we'll give you another marshmallow. And later on in life, because they delayed the gratification, they actually did better in life. They did better on their SATs. They did better in life. So the ones that saw the marshmallow and just shoved the marshmallows in their face, well, they went straight down. The Beautiful Ones, that's a mouse experiment. But we're talking about Stanley Milgram. We're talking about Stanley Milgram. Okay, so you have... Let's see, the Nazis, what is it? Eichmann, you had some fucking guy named Eichmann. He was going to get hung. So this Eichmann is going to get hung. Let's go ahead and pull him up. Eichmann, let's see here. Nazi tribunal. So Stanley Adolf, okay. So Otto Adolf Eichmann was a German-Austrian official of the Nazis, officer of the Schutzstaffel, one of the main organizers of the Holocaust. He participated in the 1942 Wannsee Conference, at which the implementation of the genocidal final solution to the Jewish question was planned. So actually, let's go to his date of death. He's going to get killed in Israel because they were having a trial there. We'll get back to him in a second. But the point that we're even mentioning, right, we got to say Anne Frank 20 times to make up for every time we say Adolf. But the Nazis, they said that they're just following orders. This Adolf Eichmann, he's going to be put to death. But they said, why did you do what you did? He said, I was just following orders. And we said that that's not a good enough excuse. You were just doing as you're told. You never thought about it. You just did as you were told. And they said, that wasn't good enough, and then they wound up hanging him. So let's see here. Capture in Argentina, trial in Jerusalem, appeals and execution. So trial in Jerusalem, Eichmann was taken to a fortified police station at Yale in Israel, where he spent 9 months. Israelis were unwilling to take him to trial based solely on the evidence and documents and witness testimony, so he was subject to daily interrogations and the transcripts, which totaled over 3,500 pages. So Abner Less, the national police, they kept using documents primarily. Let's see, Eichmann would insist he had no authority in the Nazi hierarchy and he was only following orders. They said it was hard to tell when he was lying or being evasive when additional information was brought forward that forced Eichmann into admitting what he'd done. He said, hey, I don't have any authority. I didn't have any authority in the hierarchy. I was just following orders. Inspector Less noted that Eichmann did not seem to realize the enormity of his crimes and showed absolutely no remorse. His pardon plea, released in 2016, did not contradict this. What's going on? Having a nightmare? Dreaming, squeaking dreams. Okay, come on, man. You're sleeping. It's okay. His pardon plea, released in 2016, did not contradict this. There's a need to draw a line between the leaders responsible and the people like me forced to serve as mere instruments in the hands of the leaders. So we're asking the question, is it the troops or is it the leadership? Is it the brass? Is it the civilian leadership or is it the troops that actually committed the crime? And here they're saying it's the troops. It's the person that committed the crime. He's trying to say it's the leadership. He was just obeying orders. And he said he wasn't a responsible leader and therefore he doesn't feel guilty. Eichmann's trial was before a special tribunal of the Jerusalem District Court, April 11th, 1961. So what happens to him eventually? Appeals and execution. Eichmann was hanged at a prison in Ramla hours later. 8 p.m., May 31st, Eichmann was informed that the appeal for presidential clemency had been denied. So the execution, let's see here, took place a few minutes past midnight, June 1st, 1962. It was attended by a small group of officials, 4 journalists, and the Canadian clergyman William Lovell Hall, who had been Eichmann's spiritual counselor while in prison. His last words were reported to be, "Long live Germany, long live Argentina, long live Austria. These are the 3 countries with which I have been most connected and which I will not forget. I greet my wife, my family, my friends. I am ready. We'll meet again soon, as is the fate of all men. I die believing in God." So, awesome. Okay, Eichmann, what a douchebag. What a douchebag, huh? Then they said his body was cremated, scattered in the Mediterranean Sea outside Israeli territorial waters by an Israeli Navy patrol boat. And that's enough talking about this fucking Eichmann, okay? So the whole thing is Stanley Milgram is this guy in Yale, right? He's Yale University professor. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? The Nazis just told this guy to do what he was supposed to do, and then he just committed all these crimes? Where's your conscience at? Where's your sense of right and wrong? Where's your morality? Somebody just says, go do the thing, and then you commit atrocities? Why didn't you say no? Well, you know right from wrong, so why did you just go along with, obeying orders? So let's talk about the Stanley Milgram experiment. 1963, Yale University. What we're doing is comparing personal conscience versus obedience to authority. What is more powerful? A person's own conscience or their penchant for obedience to authority? Mr. Wallace was always a learner, had electrodes attached to his arms, and it shocked him. So they had this stooge, right? You got the guy in the other room, and then you got your guy. So you had a newspaper ad calling for men to engage in a psychology experiment. And in the very beginning, they asked the person that's chosen, do you want to be the learner or the teacher? He was always the teacher. Mr. Wallace was always the learner. And Mr. Wallace is going to get shocked to death. And so what the experiment was is the person is selected, and they're going to be the teacher. And they got to teach this other guy in the other room the word association, which is arbitrary. This word is associated with this word, and they ran through a list, and then they went and read the list to the guy in the other room, Mr. Wallace, and Mr. Wallace, well, he got some of the questions right, but he got a lot of them wrong. And so what the experiment was is that you would get some average Joe American to come in and shock the guy in the other room. They would ask a question, hey, what does the word shirt, it's associated with what word did we list here? Pants. Nope. It's actually sweater. So they would shock him. Every time he would get a wrong answer, the very bottom was 15 volts, and then it would just go up in increments. I don't know, 15, 30, or what the fuck ever. But eventually it goes up to 375 volts, severe shock, and then 450 volts, which is triple X. So from New Haven, you had 40 males from 20 to 50. They got paid $4.50 for showing up. And then there's one other important factor. So essentially all you have is Mr. Wallace, the learner in the other room, who's getting shocked to death. And then you have Mr. Average Joe American, who's being tested. And every time Mr. Wallace gets the question wrong, he's supposed to shock him to the next level. And he keeps on upping the shocks. The other person in the room is the scientist. So the average Joe American who's sitting there has a scientist right over his shoulder. And the scientist right over his shoulder has 4 prods. So he just says, please continue. The experiment requires you to continue. It is absolutely essential that you continue. You have no other choice but to continue. That's what the lab coat scientist, I thought it was a white coat, but it's a gray coat. But he's the authority figure. So this is your conscience versus the authority figure. 2 rooms in the Yale lab was used. You had 30 switches. So take at least 30 wrong answers before you would get up to 450 volts. The learner was supposed to learn the random words associated with each other, but it wasn't even real knowledge. It was basically just arbitrary knowledge that he was supposed to study beforehand, and then so it was kind of pointless knowledge. 65% of those who studied the average Joe Americans, they went all the way. 450 volts. Killed the fucking motherfucker. 65%. So not everybody killed him. Some of them just went up to 300 volts. So just shocked the living shit out of him and almost to the point of death. But that's 100%. All of them shocked the shit out of him, but only 65% killed the guy. And the guy, Mr. Wallace, is screaming in the other room. You are shocking me to death. I have a heart problem. I have a heart condition. You keep shocking me and shocking me. And then all the scientist just says, please continue. No, the experiment requires you to continue. It is absolutely essential that you continue. You got no other choice but to continue. Just 4 little prods. And that's it. Well, the guy in the science coat. No, the guy in the science coat is the authority figure. He'll probably take the responsibility if I shock this other guy to death. Now, it turned out that if you tell the average Joe American that he has an option to not listen to he has an option to listen to his own conscience, or he's responsible for his own behavior. If you tell him those things, then it turns out that they are nicer. 65%, 450 volts. So that's incredible numbers. That's incredible numbers. Every average American Joe shocked the shit out of the poor fucking guy, Mr. Wallace, over in the other room. Why? Because he got a couple answers wrong, and the authority figure told you that you had to. I'm kind of happy that 35% didn't kill the guy. They shocked the living shit out of him, but 65% did. The vast majority said, well, the guy in the lab coat says, I gotta kill you, Mr. Wallace. Sorry, Mr. Wallace, gonna turn this knob and shock the fuck out of you. Nope, turns out tree is associated with leaves, not bark, like you thought. This is all arbitrary. You're just making all this stuff up. I know. Obedience is both nature and nurture. So that's incredible, right? It's both nature and nurture. With religion, work, corporations, public schools, it's all strict obedience. So just shut up and sit down. There's a lot of nurturing in America to tell you to shut up and sit down. But we have the civil liberties, freedom, and democracy. The whole world looks at us as like the city on the hill. We know what we know how to use our freedoms and how to. When you had Mr. Wallace screaming in pain, did we give a shit about our conscience? Did we give a damn about what happens to Mr. Wallace? What about the Good Samaritan principle? Yeah, if you stand up for the poor guy, you might get in trouble. You might experience slight discomfort because you stood up for somebody else. But if you don't stand up, what happens to Mr. Wallace? Obedience to authority won. Obedience to authority beat out goodness and morality and ethics. It was more important to obey the guy in the lab coat. He's going to give me $4.50 at the end of this experiment. If I don't do what he says, he's not going to give me my $4. It's better to obey than to experience slight discomfort in disobeying some authoritarian asshole. If I say no to this Mr. Serious Man might say, you're not doing this right. And if authority won more often than goodness did. Way more often. The majority of the time. Sorry, Mr. Wallace. Got to electrocute the shit out of you. Now you got that question wrong. You're making up the answers. 1 + 1, it equals 2. I swear to God, it says 3 on the sheet. Because a man in a white lab coat or gray lab coat, hey, you must continue. And this prodding's interesting. Please continue. So it's asking. And then it says that the experiment requires you to continue. It's about the experiment, man. You have to do this. And it's absolutely essential to what? I don't know. I'm just using strong language. You got no other choice but to continue. Well, shit. He said I didn't have any other choice. You can say no. He said I couldn't. He said I wasn't allowed to. So they would kill the innocent person in the other room, but when they're reminded that they were held to account for their own behavior, you are responsible for your own behavior. If they were reminded of that, they would be more likely to disobey. But on the other hand, if the science lab coat man had said that he would take the responsibility, they wouldn't feel bad at all. Well, he's going to take the responsibility, so average Joe American left after right after left after just... Mr. Wallace kept on getting the arbitrary random words wrongly associated together. Shrubbery? Nope. Shrubbery is connected to dirt, not to green grass. That's death for you, mister. You got the question wrong. Here, let's just ask a couple random questions from Trivial Pursuit and see if you all get shocked to death, okay? What is the name of both an ancient set of trade routes and a group of musicians led by cellist Yo-Yo Ma? Are you going to get shocked? I don't know the name of both an ancient set of trade routes. Silk Road, a group of musicians. Trade routes. Ancient set of trade routes. The spice route, spice trade. Musicians, spice, cellist, Yo-Yo Ma. For what film did Tom Hanks win the 1995 Best Actor Academy Award only 1 year after winning the same award for Philadelphia? The Silk Road. Okay, that was... What did Tom Hanks, after 1 year, Philadelphia? Yeah, it was right back to back. Tom Hanks did something incredible. Was it Forrest Gump? Was that it? It sure was. The Academy Award nominated film The Queen depicts how the British royal family coped with whose death? The Queen was a great movie and is about Princess Diana. What Stephen King novel was adapted for the big screen by Stanley Kubrick? Stephen King novel, was it Cujo? For the big screen, was it 100,001? The Shining. The Shining, that was Jack Nicholson as the writer, Jack Torrance. What color blood does an octopus have? Purple. No, blue. Blue. Octopus have blue. Sorry, that's electroshock. You didn't know the blood? You didn't know the color of the blood of the octopus? Well, sorry, Mr. Wallace, we got to shock the shit out of you until you die. That's the electric. No, that's capital punishment for you. I didn't commit any crimes. You got the question wrong. Did you want to be a millionaire or not? What sporting equipment do people use in... That's like high stakes Jeopardy. High stakes Jeopardy. You got the question wrong. Oh, shit. What sporting equipment do people use in spin class? Basketballs. Stationary bikes. Well, shit. So, I'm not for sure. I guess Mr. Wallace, he was a good trooper. Even though everybody killed him, he actually didn't die. He stayed alive. But after he's screaming, "Oh my God, you're killing me, you're killing me. Why do you keep shocking me? Why do you keep doing this? Don't go any farther. That'll be the end of me. You'll never hear of Mr. Wallace ever again." And then they'd click on to the next thing. Click, click. And then you wouldn't hear anything. Mr. Wallace? Mr. Wallace? Come on, Mr. Wallace. This is the easy one. What color is an octopus's blood? What color is the blood of an octopus? Green. Oh, Mr. Wallace, it's blue. And then he would just be silent. And then I wonder if they kept shocking him. Well, he didn't answer the question. So that's a wrong answer. Yep. So then you're just shocking an unconscious body. That's crazy. That's crazy, but that's psychology. And I wonder if it's American. I wonder if it's human nature, obedience to authority. Because it seems like to me, if we were taught to be, we're supposed to be an individualistic culture. So if we were taught to have strong personal convictions, to have our own code, to have our own standards, and if we were loved and you know right from wrong, then it's easy to stand up to the goddamn authoritarian pig. You're just an authoritarian pig, you pile of shit. You don't even have a conscience. You're telling me to do something you wouldn't even... Fuck you, man. Fuck you, man. And that's a little bit about the Milgram experiment of 1963 from Yale University. Next up, Solomon Asch. 1951 conformity study. People are going to be wrong. The 7 people just said the wrong answer, and then it gets to you. No, they said the octopus's blood is green, but I think it's blue. But they all said it was green. Instead of saying the right answer, you would rather just go along with your buddies. You don't want to experience any, sort of social anxiety.